to the BUCS Tips and Tricks. You can follow along in the back of the BUCS newsletter under the Tips and Tricks from Support section. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first tip and trick is bulk inactivation. In Chart of Accounts right here, there is a bulk inactivation button right here. And when we click on that button, we can pick from and to a range of accounts in here. What account type, whether it's a revenue, expense, asset, or liability, and then the last posting date range. After we select which options we want, we can press the OK button, and the system is going to give us a list of accounts that we can do a bulk inactivate on. And we can select all or select none here, or we could select individual count. Whatever count is selected will be what is going to be able to be inactivated. For the next tip and trick, there's a follow-up note section. The new follow-up note allows you to set a default user for the follow-up to be logged in. These notes are in vendor maintenance, AR customer maintenance, fixed assets, chart of accounts, investments, projects, and fee receipt clients. But for this example, I'm going to go ahead and go into vendor maintenance. I'm going to open up a vendor here. I'm going to go to notes, and where this new section is I'm talking about, when I click on add a note, it's right here, the follow-up user. I can say that I want it to be followed up today, and even though I'm logged in as BUCS, so I want to go ahead and have the follow-up note under my login, and then I could type in here I can say, in here, I can say if I want any kind of note alerts to go off, I can say OK, and then once I cancel all the way out of here, and I close out of here, and then I log in here, and I'm going to log in with my login credentials. And you can see here that the note alerts popped up. So then the note alert, I can go in here, I can view the note. I can now, even though a different login put this note in here, I could go in here and I could basically assign it to someone else. When they log in, they'll see it. Once they go through here, they can say follow-up complete. They can say OK, and then close, and then now that note alert has been followed up on. Throughout the BUCS system, the graphs now are able to go up to 99 billion. And when the graphs in here, like these are like the graphs that we see, like if we go in here, how this has 10 billion in it, and then we go to current graph, you can see here that it only shows up to million in here, but then down here it said graph times 100. So if it's just into the billion, that you'll see graph times 10. Like in this case, if it's 10 billion, you'll see graph times 100. And then if it's up to the up to the 99 billion point, are basically like the two digits after it, then you would see graph times 1000. Not all the graphs support this option, but throughout the system after the update, you'll see that in accounts that go this high, that you can see like, in this case, this might not be the case here, but then you have to times it by any kind of graph dollar down here to see the full value that's in there. On the next tip and trick I want to talk about is Chart of Accounts Advanced Search. So when you go into Chart of Accounts here, under sequence over here, before you just had number and description, now you have this advanced search feature. With the advanced search feature, right here you can say what field you're going to search in, and you can go through here and you can see all the different asset, liability, revenue codes. You can see in the year to date over here. You can say include in search, revenue, expense, liability. Whatever's selected is what's going to show and what fields we have available to search in. Right here we can say if we want to match the case of what we're searching for exactly as we type it in. And like for example here, this would be if we wanted to type in cash in here. If we type in cash in here and I click on search now, all of the accounts I see down here have cash in the name. So like right here, I can see like general fund cash is the first one that shows up here. And I can go through here and I could search for any certain account. Like if I remember account has a certain name or even part of it, I could go through and I could search for that part of that name. The next option is I'm going to show there's a new when you ACH vendor emails that are sent out after you do ACH payments, and when you send out the emails, there's a new option in that email to include like vendor name in there. And to access that information, we have to go to General Ledger. We go down to System Controls. If we click on Edit, and then on the AP tab, and the AP ACH email found down here in the lower right hand side, when we click on that right here, this vendor name, if we click on that vendor name right there, then that vendor name will be included in your AP ACH emails. Now after I can have that selected, it's going to have the subject and header just like it previously has had, and we still have the number, the description, the amount, posting date, but then we have this vendor name in there as well. For demonstration purposes with the ACH email, I'm going to go ahead and go to Generate ACH Email, and I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And then it's going to go ahead and it's doing the backup like it normally does. I can see here that I did one ACH file. I can see here I'm going to send the file, so I'm going to say send email. I went ahead and sent the email notifications. And then you can see here that I have an example of the email. That here it has the vendor name, it has the posting date, it has the amount, it has the description, and it has the invoice number. So it'll be just like the email that you sent before, but for ACH information, but then it's going to include the vendor name in it. For the next tip and trick is about future period trial balance. The future period trial balance now includes include month-to-date posting journal and reports. So if we go under General Ledger and we click on future period trial balance, it's going to want to create a future period. I'm going to go ahead and create that future period. And then now it includes this month-to-date posting on journal report. Previously we did not have that option, but now you can click on it. You include all the budget transactions. You can print the detailed descriptions and journal entry notes. Previously you only had this option available if we close out here and go to regular trial balance, that you'd be able to get something similar to that here under, if you went to current period or previous period, that you was able to get the posting journal on report options. For the next tip and trick, we're going to look at the balance sheet. Some users would like to have the month-to-date and year-to-date columns removed from the balance sheet. So let's take a look at here. If we go into balance sheet, and then let's pull up a regular balance sheet. That's the month-to-date and year-to-date columns in here. That to have that removed, we have a new feature. If you go into report parameters here, I'm under general ledger, and then report parameters, and we could go into a balance sheet, and there's this billions applicables, and you can select this and save. And I already have an example here of this is selected, and we saved it with a different name. So that way when we run this report, it's exactly like the one that I just ran, but in this case it's going to have the month to date and year to date not available anymore. So see, that's not on there. So it just shows you all your information here, and you can just see, like here we see the assets, and then we see the liabilities, and everything balances up nicely. For the next tip and trick is on the encumbrance report. That the encumbrance report has two new options. So if we go to here, payables, encumbrances, and we're going to look at this encumbrance report right here. This encumbrance report has only include encumbrances that exceed appropriations, and only include encumbrances with vendor limit exceeded. So if we look at, these are two brand new options, and first we can look at just the regular encumbrance report. We have just a normal encumbrance report on here. And then for our first option, we're going to go back here. We're going to only include encumbrances that have exceeded appropriations. So those encumbrances that have exceeded their appropriation amount. I'm going to say OK. And we can see on here, that we have two encumbrances that have exceeded appropriation. And then for the second option, if we go back in here, we can only include encumbrances with a vendor limit exceeded. And we can see on here that we have two, that we can see that the amount that the appropriation exceeded by, that shows up right here. Shows that we've exceeded those amounts. For the next tip and trick, we're going to go to the paid invoice view. We have a few new options there. So if I go into paid invoices and I go into view, they have invoice description contains, detail description contains, and account number contains. And within these fields, we could put information in these fields to get search results. It's going to search those appropriate categories, and it's going to come up with information. Like for example here, under invoice description contains, if we put in supplies, and then we search for that, it's going to pull up everything that has supplies in it. We can even double click on it. We could see the information in here. And everything that has supplies in here, we see office supplies, we see supplies, we see hardware supplies. And it pulled up just those information that have supplies on it. And we can go through there and we could see all of them. And if we're back here, and maybe let's say, we get rid of supplies, under detailed description, it'd be under anything under the detailed description. The example that we have here is if we're searching for Emmerich in here, we say OK, we can see that this one popped up here with a detailed description. And then if we close out of here, the last option here is for account contains. And if we use the account contains number of 4100.0502, and then we hit the OK button here, we can see all these invoices that contain those numbers in it. So that would give us a good option to be able to use these to be able to search the kind of different fields, and we could find out information instead of just pressing, like OK on this, getting everything that's ever been out there and kind of going through it. It helps us kind of, if we know certain data that's out there, or certain, names, or even what the, invoice description is, and we could find that information. The next tip and trick I want to talk about is with purchase order number. There's a new option in System Controls on the AP tab to only generate PO number on update. And when this option is selected, when you're adding encumbrances or purchase orders, and you press OK, that PO number is not going to be available. And so that way it doesn't have skip numbers or numbers maybe out of sequence. So like if I exit out of here and I go to add an encumbrance, you can see that the PO number here is not available, and it just automatically assigns a PO number on update. So I could go through here and I could just select the information here, and I'm just going to put it in just my example encumbrance for $1. And then when I press the OK button, you can see there that it put the purchase order number in, and it put the purchase order number in for my encumbrance as well. I should say my purchase order. And then once I'm done here, I put everything in. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to cancel out. For the next tip and trick is about AR customers. In AR customers, we click down here on receivables and we go into AR customers. We can go in here and we can see, double click here, we can show that there's a new button here. Now for this customer, they do not have any charges. So we can see here that it's grayed out. But then if we do go into a customer that does have charges and we click on edit, we can see that this button is lighting up showing show unpaid invoices. I can click on here. I can see all the invoices make up that balance. I can even click on a view button and it's going to take me right to that invoice to show me where that unpaid balance is. And if they have multiple invoices, you'd see multiple invoices. Instead of going to history, this would jump us straight to the invoices that are still due and they're still out there. And we could go through and we could see it with any of the customers. Like I'm on a different customer now. And this is the same thing. We could go out here and we could view those. We could see, we could kind of figure out that there's still, like in this case, there's still $100 of that $150 that was billed. And that way you could just, jump in there and get more details about that information right away. And for the last tip and trick is under AR billing, that we can no longer bill customers that are inactive, and that would be so you don't inadvertently bill a customer. So let's go into AR billing here, or AR customers. Before we do billing, let's open up a customer and let's make this customer inactive. So I just made their status inactive. Like let's say we're no longer going to bill them anymore. And then when we go into accounts receivable and billing, let's go ahead and let's try to add a bill for them. And see when they were customer number 2. And it's going to pop up right away here telling me a bill cannot be created for this customer because they are not active. So that way we cannot accidentally bill them. And when a batch or reoccurring invoice is added, the program will warn if the customer status is not active, just like this. So then that way, you cannot accidentally bill a customer that is inactive. Thank you for watching the tips and tricks.